All right, everybody. Again, this is Jason from Straight Edge Knives. How y'all doing? Hey, today we got a review for you today. It's the Lionsteel M4. Guys, this is a very cool EDC belt hunting blade. Um, I really like Lionsteel knives, guys. I've done a couple of reviews on a couple other Lionsteels, one of their folders, the Lionsteel Skinny, and was a larger, I think it was the T5 fixed blade. Man, the ergonomics, blade steel, everything on that knife is just really, really nice. I really enjoy these blades, guys. Very, very cool. Lionsteel, they're out of Italy and they're just making some really killer stuff, and really, really hunting, outdoorsy orientated style blades. And they also do have some cool tactical style blades as well. But primarily what I've been getting my hands on has been the hunting slash outdoorsy bushcraft style blades, and that's what this M4 is kind of intended for. So to be that kind of everyday carry, bushcrafty, outdoorsy style blade. But before we get any more into this M4, guys, we do have a quick word from our sponsor. Guys, Wicked Industries, the makers of Wicked Wax and Wicked Clean, help sponsor this channel, guys. I utilize these products all the time with all of my knives. I use the Wicked Clean to clean them up after I do my reviews. I use the Wicked Wax to protect them as I keep them in storage and things like that. Or, if I know I'm going to be going out to a humid environment or a wet environment, I like to have a nice layer of Wicked Wax on my high carbon steel blades just to help keep them from rusting and things like that. And works really good, guys. Product also works really good on all your handle materials like your G10, your wood, your micarta, things like that. Helps preserve and protect those handle materials as well. And of course, when you're out camping, hiking, doing outdoorsy stuff, right, your tans tend to get dried out. They get beat up, they get dirty, get cuts and scrapes. But when that happens, guys, utilize Wicked Rescue. This is an all-natural healing type of balm that's going to help your hands heal up, help keep them moisturized so they don't get cracked and things like that. If you get those little cuts and scrapes, it'll help those heal up a little bit faster as well. It's an all-natural hand cream, guys, made right here in the USA, just like all the other products that Wicked Industries makes. Guys, definitely go check them out. There's a link below. Great company. Fred over there is doing a good job with his products. I really enjoy them. I use them all the time. I think you should too. So go click that link in the description below and check out Wicked Industries. Well, let's get back to this Lionsteel M4, guys. So this blade is just a very, very comfortable neutral style blade. Like, it has a nice drop point to it. The handle ergonomics on it are just really natural. It's kind of a neutral grip. It's not, very forward front canted or back. It's just got a real nice ergonomic handle that's going to fit just about everybody's hand. So, no matter who you are, you could probably grab this thing and it's going to feel comfortable. Even if you have small hands, they did a really, really nice job of rounding everything off on here. Like the whole back spine, everything's rounded. So if you're in here and you're having to do a lot of put your thumb on the back, cutting and stuff like that, it's not going to tear your hand up. It's going to be comfortable. Very nicely done. Now, some people say, well, if I can't strike a fire rod with it, like if the back's all rounded off, well, it's not really a very bushcrafty knife. Well, they addressed that by putting a small pommel on the end of the knife that has a 90-degree spine. You guys can see that right there. So this actually does right here have a 90-degree spine. So you can take your fire rod, and you can come in here out the back and throw your sparks. So they did put a fire striker in this knife, guys. And what's nice is you don't have to take it out of the sheath to do that. You can always leave it in the sheath so you can grab onto it nicely, be able to come in here and safely strike your fire without worrying about maybe accidentally cutting your hands. And speaking of the sheath, it comes with a really nice leather sheath. Got the belt loop right here on the back side. Very nicely made, very, very clean, classy look. Has a little retention strap right here. If I'm gonna give one criticism to the sheath here, it's the retention strap. Not that it doesn't work, it does. I've never been a big fan of retention straps that come around the front like this, mainly because when you go to take the blade out, if you don't make sure that is out of the way, slide this way out. See, it's got good retention. But if that blade, let's see, if this is like this and you pull this out, or let's say you slide it out, you can see what's going to happen. You can accidentally cut your retention strap pretty easily, or even in resheathing, like if it happens to be just kind of folded over like this, you're not really looking, you put it in, maybe come in at an angle, you're slicing your retention strap, if you can see that. So definitely when you're taking the knife in and out, make sure that you're utilizing tucking this out of the way, so that way if you're taking in and out a lot, that it's not going to accidentally get cut or cut off. Yeah. Now, if you happen to cut the retention strap off, is it the end of the world? No. I mean, this still has a pretty good retention, even without the strap. That's still pretty good. You go falling down a hill, rolling down a hill, there's a potential that it could slip out, but this has actually got really good retention, even without the retention strap. So that's just a little extra bonus, just in case. Like you can see, I can't pull the knife out. I'm pulling hard and I can't pull it out with a retention strap. But even, I still have to give it a pretty good amount of pressure to get this out of the leather sheath. So they did a really good job with the retention on the sheath, which is nice. But let's go over the specs on this, guys, because I know that's, some of you guys, that's what you really want to know, the specs, right? So this is the Lionsteel M4 made out of Italy. Your overall length on this is 8 inches. You have a blade length of 3.75. It's probably 4, but I think they're counting 3.75 on the specs, like the cutting edge, but you do have a little bit of a choil here. Blade width is 1.25 inches. Thickness is 0.15. This is Bowler M390 steel, so they're using some really, really good steel, guys, with your knives. This is a drop point. It is a flat grind with a satin finish. Your handle length is 4.25 inches, which will fit just about everybody's hand nice and comfortably. The width is 1 inch this way. So again, it's not overly big. Like I said, somebody with small hands can get their hands on it. This one happens to have the black G10 handle scales, but you can get this. There's two or three different wood types that you can get, wood handles, and then there is a natural and green micarta handle option as well. So you can definitely, depending on what your style is, if you like G10, wood, or micarta, they do have an option for you with this blade. So mine just happens to have the black G10, which is fine. But man, it just, again, really, everything is nicely rounded. This is just one thing I noticed with Lionsteel is they just do a really good job with their ergonomics and their handles, man. And it's not just on the fixed blades. The Lionsteel skinny folder, everything was nicely rounded. There was no hot spots on that handle at all. Very, very comfortable. I think it was the T5 I did, and this one feels awesome as well. I mean, they just do a fantastic job with making sure everything's nice and rounded and comfortable, which, because if a knife ain't comfortable, you're not going to want to use it out in the woods, right? So, but guys, I know we talked about the specs, showed it to you, but now it's time to get over to the testing area, and let's see what this bad boy can do. All right, stay tuned. All right, everybody, we're over here at the testing area. We've got the M4 out here. Let's bust this bad boy out again, give you a nice look at it. A little bit brighter over here. Again, very, very nicely done. Very well rounded all the way. Everything's rounded nicely. Super comfortable grip, guys. Give you a nice, another up close look at that sheath. Again, very comfortable, functional sheath. I'm not really going to knock the retention strap too much. It's not that big of a deal. It's just one of those things where I would like to see it a little bit different maybe, but hey, it is what it is, guys. So set the sheath over there. Let's get this thing out in action, guys. So we're going to start off, guys. Got some paracord here, guys. Obviously, we're going to be able to come here, cut this stuff up easy. Just some good old standard black paracord. Come in there, got to chop some of that off, cut some pieces. Yeah, you definitely can. You can come in here and even do a nice little, that was just a push cut, and I was able to cut through it easily. Come here, do a little chop it down into some smaller pieces if you need to, but realistically, you'll just be able to slice through this stuff like butter. Get that out of the way. That's good to go. So got some jean material here, guys. You had to come in there and cut some pant material off of somebody. They fell down, got hurt. You had to check them for injuries. You come in here, look at that, just sliced right in there like nothing. This has got, for a drop point, it's got a really nice tip to it. It comes in here, it'll easily pierce into the pants. Look at that, cut right through that. Not a problem. If you had to come in here and let's say that you got a zombie that's got some jean jacket on, and you got to pierce through that jean jacket. You know what I'm talking about? Come in here. It's all doubled up, tripled up right here. Stuck it into the wood. Tip came all the way through. You guys can see that. So definitely has some piercing capabilities as well. And we'll get into the stab in the phone book here, or the catalog. Well, speaking of the catalog, here it is. in all its gloriousness. It's I think I need to go find a new catalog, guys. I don't know. What do you think? But come in here. Look at that. Nice clean cuts. This does have a 90-degree spine on the back, like I said when we're going over the thing. But you still can rest your thumb over the top, and it's not uncomfortable. It's like, come in here, do a nice stab. Tip is right here. So we got a good halfway through the catalog, and that wasn't even like a full bore. Like that was just a good, let's drive that sucker in there. That 3/4 of the way catalog, pretty much almost stabbed all the way through it. Got about good halfway, 3/4 of the way through the catalog on that one. So definitely can come in and pierce into some stuff if you need to. Well, this is a little bit of a smaller knife. It's not necessarily meant to be like a chopper. So plus the corners on my catalog are tore up, guys. So ain't gonna do much good trying to cut that up. But we do have the old fire hose here, guys. So you guys know this stuff is hard to cut. It goes through car wreckages, broken glass, fire, all that stuff. Very pierce resistant, also very cut resistant. So it's not always the easiest stuff to cut. But with this edge on here, this thing is pretty damn sharp, guys. We're going to see how easy we could just, oh, look. That is just a butter cut through fire hose right there, guys. Look at that. That no problem with this edge cutting through that at all. Come in, stab through. Absolutely. Had to, again, not a chopper, but you can choke back a little bit on it. Give a nice little chop. It'll do a little bit of chopping, but again, it's not really necessarily designed to be a chopper. So, but that is a super clean cut through fire hose. It cut through that easily, guys, which is good. That's one thing I noticed before we even got started with this review. I was like, man, this thing has got an edge to it. And it's still, I wouldn't expect it to be dull after doing that little bit of stuff. And there's no chipping or rolling either. So, but I mean, it cut through that fire hose easily. Rope, this is that thicker kind of rope. We already did the paracord, right? Yeah. Cut through that stuff without any issues. Absolutely. Let's say you had to cut some ratchet strap, guys. So here we got, it's just this kind of little cheapy tie down strap. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the full blown thick ratchet strap, but it's just ratchet strap. This is something a lot of people have around the house. A lot of times these things get tangled up, and look at that. Cut right through it. A lot of times these things get tangled up, messed up. You might be hauling a load and it gets wrapped up and you can't break it free. You'd be able to come in there and cut that loose real quick if you needed to. Again, you had to stab through. I mean, that poked right through. I actually pulled it out, but it poked right through. No problem. Kind of do a little chop. 2 pieces went flying. Almost got through that second one. Again, it's not a chopper, so I wouldn't sit there and, be like, I'm going to chop through a tree. It's not necessarily going to do that, but it is what it is. So we have some yellow poly rope, guys. This stuff's a pain in the butt. It's abrasive to a knife edge as well. Cut through. You got 3 strands there that's cutting through when you're doing this. So, it's always a little bit harder to cut through. So we come in here, do just a little saw cut, cut that stuff up. Whenever you start cutting this stuff up like that, though, it starts getting messy, guys. It starts falling apart and making a big ass mess. But I like to cut it because it is a little bit harder on a knife edge, a little bit more difficult to cut. And speaking of difficult to cut, where did my sissy rope go? Oh, there it is. So I actually have a couple of pieces of sissy rope here. Well, this one fell apart on me. So this is a little bit of a thinner sissy rope, guys. If you had to come in, cut some pieces of this stuff off to tie down a load or something, that just, it ate through that. Not a problem. Like easily cut through that. Now this is the thicker sissy rope, guys. This is like big old giant one. Now this one, well, I don't have a long enough piece to try to fold it over, cut through, but we're gonna saw through a piece. Yeah, nice clean cut. cutting that stuff off. So definitely cut some scissor rope if you need to. Thicker rope, come in here. That was pretty much like a push cut, guys. Look at that. Very nice. Oh, that one hung on my little thread. I mean, this thing got a wicked edge, man. Like, it's cutting so easily. It's ridiculous. So here we got 3100 rated pressure washer hose. This is, you guys, if I cut the side off, you guys can see it's got like a kind of like a nylon inside, and then there's like even a harder piece of plastic in there. But it cut right through that. Not a problem. Look at cutting pieces off. Easy. No issues. Cutting hose. I do need to get some thicker hose though, because I do want to start cutting some thicker stuff for you guys. Come down here, do a push cut right through the middle. I'll show you guys. There's that little piece of plastic that's inside. There's that kind of nylon. And then you got the rubber, really kind of hard rubber sheath over the top of that. So definitely cut some hose if you need to. Borrowed this little test here from our buddy Scott over at Choir Boys Cutlery. I kind of like it. I don't know why I haven't been doing it sooner, but he likes to put some zip ties around, you know, a piece of wood or something. Be able to come in here and kind of test that, you know, tip of the edge, and look at that, just cut those off, not a problem. Got your zip tie right here. Kind of come in here, do a little press cut, cut a piece off. Not a problem. So if you got zip ties and stuff like that you got to cut, you can definitely come in there and cut that stuff off. No issues whatsoever doing that. Let's get the old extension cord here, guys. You know, it's an extension cord. We all know what extension cord is. Extension cord. I can't even say extension cord today. But kind of come in here, wrap that over the top. Kind of push, pull, cut. I need a bigger piece to hold on to. That's not that I'm having an issue cutting it, guys. It's just I felt a little unsafe there with the amount of you know, extension cord I had to hold on to. So there you go. See, you cut through nice and easy. I felt like I was going to slip, and I didn't want to accidentally slip and cut myself. So you definitely always want to try to be careful, guys. If you have an inkling that it might not be safe, maybe you shouldn't do it unless you absolutely have to. You know what I'm saying? So where'd that piece go? Oh, got a bunch in here. If you had to come in and do a quick chop on one of these, you can come in there, chop the piece off real fast, and get to work. You know what I'm saying? So doing your everyday cutting tasks, rope, hoses, clothing, fire hose. I mean, like, obviously this thing just burned through that stuff easy, no problem. But what we want to see now is like, well, okay, what can we do? It's a bushcrafty blade, guys. So let's see, you know, what kind of fire curls can this thing make? What kind of, you know, can we do some batoning with it? Things like that. So, oh yeah, make some nice fire curls. Again, this thing has just got such a nice, that flat grind, guys. It's just, look at that. Very nicely done. Again, you know, you guys know I'm a fan of, you know, sticking the knife in the wood and then coming in and doing my fire curls, just because I feel like I have more control over it. And if I do accidentally cut them off, they're going to usually fall right in front of where I'm working rather than go flying off somewhere else. And then I don't have to dig around in the dirt trying to find my fire curls to get my fire going. You know what I'm saying? So there you go. Kind of, you see why I kind of like doing it that way. But, you know, if you did have to come in something and just start hogging material off, I mean, you can see those pieces flying. And again, with this nicely rounded back edge, not back edge, but spine, it's just comfortable. It's just, I feel like I could just sit here and keep whittling this thing away all day, and it's not going to tear my thumb up, you know. Sometimes with the jimping on the back of a knife, if it's a little too aggressive, makes it a little uncomfortable after a while. You know, you keep pressing in. Or even if you have to come in over the top and do some finer work, skinning out an animal or something like that, you know, it's nicely rounded. You know, you got control, and it's not going to eat your finger up. So that's always a good thing. So let's say you had to come in here, make a tent spike or a tent stake or a vampire stake, right? Because there are vampire squirrels out there, guys. They're real. Trust me, they're real. So I say that jokingly, but watch they be real. That'd be wild. Anyway, so here's this is kind of a thicker stick, but we're going to utilize it. If I wanted to come in here and make a tent stake, I could come in here, kind of got a knot right there. Get that off. You can kind of come in here and just, you know, hog material away. But with something this thick, it'd be just a little bit faster. And, you know, a lot of times when you're out camping, sometimes daylight's not your friend. You got to hurry up. You know, you come in here, choke back a little bit, do some light chopping just to hurry, you know, get this down almost to that spike that you need. You know, depending on how sharp you need it to get into the ground. I mean, you may not even have to go too much. I mean, you might be able to just kind of leave it like that if you wanted to, but you kind of get it down to where you want it. Then you can kind of come in here and just hog off the material and dial it in, get it nice and sharp, get it to that, you know, get it to that point where you're going to be able to handle that vampire squirrel if he comes into your camp, or you can drive it into that harder ground. But you come in here, dial it in, get it ready to go. Now you can stick it in the ground, but before you do, you need to make a notch to tie your paracord around or your rope around. That way it stays lashed onto the stick. So we're going to come in here, just roll into the back of this like so. This is eating, I mean, this is just eating right into the wood, guys. Not a problem. This is an older stick. It's a little bit dried out. Well, oftentimes when you do this, you're going to be out in the woods. You're either going to have some really green stuff or you're going to have some really dead dry stuff. It seems like those are your two options when you're out in the forest, hiking, backpacking. You know, you either cut something green off a tree or find something that just fell, or you're picking up something that's been there for a long time and it's going to be harder to cut. So it's up to you. However you do it, whatever you find to make work for you, you do you, right? But this is a little bit harder. I was able to easily cut into that, make a really nice notch, stick this in the ground. Now my temporary shelter, tarp, whatever it is I'm putting up, it's going to stay secure in the wind. And that's what we want. We don't want that flying away, right? So had to do some bushcrafty type of stuff. You can do it. You can make notches, things like that for traps. Yes, you can. Absolutely. Now you're going to get into some fire prep, right? You gotta make some fire. Again, I know a lot of people cringe with the batoning test, but again, like, not everybody's always carrying an axe or saw around, guys. I don't necessarily recommend you do this with your knife all the time. This is kind of an emergency situation type stuff. You know, if you have an axe, obviously use that. If you have to use your M4 to do some batoning, can you do it? Well, let's find out. I think you can, but here's a kind of a thinner piece of seasoned almond wood. This stuff's pretty hard, guys. Now, I know you're thinking, well, that's not very hard to baton through, but this is hard wood, guys. So come in here. Bam, absolutely. All right, everybody, sorry about that. My camera got hot and I had to shut it off for a second. Man, that's the bad part about filming in the summertime out here where I live. It gets really hot, and man, this camera can, when you're filming 4K, guys, it can get a little temperature sensitive. But as you guys saw, we were able to baton through that one little piece pretty easy. Not a problem, but we might need to step it up and go a little bit thicker with a piece, right? So let's find ourselves a thicker piece here. So, oh, here we go. Again, seasoned almond wood. Now, I would say that this is probably a little bit bigger than what you should baton if you did have to accidentally, you know, not accidentally, but if you did have to baton. But let's say you had to break a chunk of this down, get some of that dry wood. I definitely would not be going straight down the middle, because if you can see there, you ain't gonna have anywhere to hit. So you definitely want to come in kind of on a corner piece and then start off that way. That way you have some blade to hit when you're doing this. But again, not necessarily meant to be a big batoning blade, guys. But if you had to, try to get down in there. See, I know I'm out of frame a little bit, guys, but when I start getting down a little bit, you guys can see. Also, doing this, you're putting a lot of, you know, when I do hit that tip, guys, I'm hitting that tip quite a bit, and you guys can see it's putting a lot of pressure on there. You might even have to come in and go back on the handle a little bit. get on that G10 a little bit if you want. But again, this is why you really probably shouldn't do something this big. I'm doing it just because I want you guys to see that it can be done. And man, I can hear this thing splitting. You guys see that right there. But problem is look at, I ran out of real estate to hit on the tip there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, utilize the wood. Basically, you're kind of almost hammering this down a little bit. Get that in there a little bit, get some of that tip out. There we go. Again, this is why you probably shouldn't do a piece this big, guys, because you run into problems like this, and you also run into the fact that you might even get your knife stuck, you know, because that's happened to me before too, where the knife got wedged in there so bad I was like, crap. But definitely putting this M4 and this Bowler M390 steel to the test, guys. You guys can see, just hitting that tip, it's tearing up my baton stick here. But that's okay, guys. That's the things I sacrifice for you guys. So you know that if you get a knife like this, you know it's going to hold up and it's going to put in some work for you. Look at that. We're about halfway through this thing. Again, probably a little bit too thick of a piece to be batoning, but I really wanted to show you guys that how tough this thing is, you know. Down to the handle there. Man. Definitely putting a beating on this thing, guys. Very difficult to hit just that little part of the tip, so get that sucker out. Again, might not have been the best option to baton. If we kept working it, I'm sure we probably could have got down through it, but then we might have a 15-minute video too. So, but you guys can see, I was able to baton down to here. The problem with it is you just ran out of real estate. You just don't have room with a piece that big to hit. But look at all that hitting on that tip. It's still straight. No damage. Still ready to rock and roll. And this is still a sharp edge, guys. I mean, that's seasoned almond wood, guys. Very, very hard wood. Let's see with the paper here. That's still a really clean cut. Still a clean cut, guys. Let's do another piece. Nicely done. Can we still do a nice clean cut on the fire hose? Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, that's impressive, guys. Even after putting that edge through that hard wood like that, I was still able to cleanly cut the fire hose. Awesome. So thicker pieces of wood, definitely don't recommend batoning. You're going to run into some issues of being able to hit it. Here's a smaller piece. Come in here over the top. Well, the smaller piece for sure. Let's say right through a knot. Bam, just hit my camera. There you go. So now we're down to a drier piece of wood. We can come in here, make those fire curls, things like that, you know what I mean? You're in a hurry. It's raining. You got to the dry stuff, now you got to hurry up and make some fire curls so you can get that fire going before the dry wood gets too wet. Man, got some stuff going there. Rock and roll, get it going. So definitely do that type of stuff if you need to. Again, smaller pieces, don't go big giant pieces. You know, you could do stuff like this probably, you know, kind of thinner. Maybe this is, I mean, obviously you wouldn't find a 4x4 out there in the 2x4 in the woods. Maybe you would. I don't know. Who knows? But let's get into the old stabbing test here on the wood, guys. It's nice. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And on those last couple, I kind of tweaked it out a little bit, where I kind of like pulled out a little bit to the side. Look at, I was just able to take a little bit of that chunk out, but putting a little bit of pressure on that tip, right? You want to see how tough that tip is. So we're able to get 10 good stabs in there. I know sometimes I hold this stuff up too fast and I move it too quick. You guys probably don't get a good look at it, but that tip is still straight. Ooh, it's still real pointy. So now we're going to come in. We've got to make that drill a hole, right? For whatever reason, bow drill, divot. This puts tons of pressure on the tip and the tip of that and the edge, right? These are like, that's like the thinnest part of the blade, right? When you get to the tip, get to that edge at the tip. So I like to crank this around, put a lot of pressure on there to see how it holds up. Is it going to bend? Is it going to snap the tip off? Things like that. Very, very, like there's some knives, guys, I won't do this test with. I could just look at the tip and I'll be like, no, it's going to break the tip off of it if you do it. So, and you know, you got to kind of, I don't try to break stuff. That's not my goal. It's not my goal to sit here and intentionally destroy stuff. My goal is I do push stuff a little bit harder than you probably should sometimes, but it's not super aggressive, you know, because honestly, you're not going to be trying to break your stuff out in the field, right? You want to make sure your stuff's going to last. So if you have a really thin tip knife, you know in your head you shouldn't be doing that type of stuff. Again, dire emergency happens and you have to, okay, by all means go for it. No, you know, it might break, but I like to push some of these knives when I can tell, okay, this has got a robust enough edge that it should not tip, the tip shouldn't break or anything like that. And this one didn't. Obviously, it's still intact, it's still sharp, everything's still straight. You guys can see right here where I was drilling it in, and it did perfectly fine, you know. So again, you want to come in here, do a little bit of light chopping. You can choke back right here, get the middle finger, get a little bit of that whip chop going. Do some nice little chops there if you had to kind of break some wood down. Get you some wood chips for making a fire or something. You know, you could do that. So man, it's still a sharp edge, guys. This M390, man, doing a good job. So we just did some chopping, just did some baton, some more, a little bit more batoning, right? So let's cut another piece of fire hose off. That's impressive. This edge is fantastic, guys, without a doubt. Going through the sister rope, the poly rope, doing that chopping, doing that batoning, that's all really hard on a knife edge. Even cutting through this is hard on a knife edge. And look, I was still able to cut that piece off cleanly. Super impressive, guys. Lionsteel did a fantastic job with this edge on this M4. The heat treat on it's dialed in. This M390 is holding that edge. That's very impressive. Even hitting on the back of the handle scales here, that little bit, the handle scales are fine. Nothing's damaged. The handles are all still nice and tight. Guys, if you're looking for a good, just kind of 4-inch blade belt knife, bushcrafty camping style knife, I'd definitely seriously take a look at this M4 from Lionsteel. That thing's got a really nice edge for doing some wood stuff. Slicey edge. It holds its edge, right? It's definitely say this is worth taking a look at, guys. This thing is. Come in here, do some more of that stuff. This thing is great. It's a nice weight. It's very comfortable. Forward reverse grip. You know, you had to come in and do some cool zombie stuff. Putting your hand on the back, being able to do some work like this. Reverse grip, you had to come in, do that pull. I'm always a little leery of doing these type of cuts. I'm always afraid I'm going to slip off and wind up cutting myself. But I see guys that do this, you know, that come in, cut stuff like that. I'm not very good at it. I don't like to do it, but I'm always afraid I'm going to slip and wind up cutting myself, but typically don't do that. But in this grip, it feels really good as well. So you can come in and do that type of cutting. This has got a really good tip. Guys, I don't think you can go wrong with this Lionsteel M4. This is really nice. It's just got a really good, cool, classic look to it. Great materials. I think you'd be hard pressed to find something better, man. This thing is really, really nice. I like it a lot, guys. The M4 from Lionsteel. If you're looking for something that's going to hold an edge and get some work done, I think you're looking for a good, just kind of EDC belt size knife, I think this is a good option. You know, between the blade shape, the look of it, along with that leather sheath, you could carry this all day. People aren't going to look at you funny, think you're some tactical mall ninja. It's just a good hunting, camping, EDC knife, guys. And I don't think you can go wrong with it. Lionsteel, you knocked it out of the park again, man. The more reviews I do on your guys' stuff, the more I'm like, Lionsteel is a company to look at, guys, for sure. Definitely check out what they have to offer. I've done 3 of their blades so far, and all of them have been fantastic. So definitely check them out. There'll be a link down below for Lionsteel, a link for Wicked Industries, our sponsor. Thank you again. And guys, I greatly thank you for watching. And if you haven't, please hit like, subscribe, follow, comment, whatever. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys have a Lionsteel knife, what do you think of yours? What do you think of this one? Let me know in the comments. I like engaging with comments. I really do. I'm not above constructive criticism. So, and if you guys are enjoying my content, please make sure you're sharing it with people as well, and go follow me over on Instagram and TikTok as well. So thank you again. I greatly appreciate it. You guys have a great day. Stay safe, stay sharp. Love y'all. Until the next one.